important to see. It's one thing if I tell you about wealth and you gain an understanding of wealth and you gain financial clarity and economic vision. I mean, that's what our money mindset trainings are for. That's why we do this every morning. In case you don't know, we do this every morning at 10 a.m. Text the word morning to 87948 if you want to stay in touch and stay connected. I'll send you guys a text periodically when we're live. This morning I didn't send out a text, but you'll typically get a notification from Zoom to let you all know when we're getting started. But one of the things that I think one of the reasons that our team decided to start featuring your stories and telling people about it is number one, because a lot of you have businesses that we'd like to support and promote. We want it to be reciprocal. We'd like to help your business out as much as you help out the Black Business School. But then number two, it's just inspiring to see other people like real genuine stuff. Nothing's fake here. To really see people making progress in their lives and to really believe, right? Because a lot of times we just don't when you're sort of born in the struggle and you're born in the middle of what appears to be just an endless supply of misery. It's very easy to get caught up in this false belief that you're just destined to suffer or that it's impossible to do little things like, I don't know, like basically little things like pay your bills without a job, right? To literally just, be able to say, I don't want to work for anybody. I can pay my bills without working for other people, because that's in such contrast to everything you've heard your whole life. Your whole life you've heard, if you don't work, you don't eat. If you don't get a job, how are you going to survive, right? And a lot of us hear that growing up. And the thing is that I have a whole PhD in finance that tells me otherwise. I have seen wealthy people. I have seen what rich people do. I've seen what wealthy families have that you don't have. I've seen what they did to prepare. And one of the biggest things that I realized when I wrote my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, which you can go to drboycebooks.com if you'd like a copy, is I realized, I said, okay, it's about culture. It's about culture because culture shapes your values and your values shape what is important to you. And what is important to you shapes what you do with your time. That is how you choose to invest. How many of y'all know this? How many of y'all know that you've been an investor your whole life? I'm gonna give you a second to answer that question. How many of you believe me when I say that you literally have been an investor your entire life? Let's start there. How about give me a yes if you trust me or believe me or can understand where I might be coming from when I say you've been investing since birth. By the way, I am going to fire out the text to the other students that are not here yet. Help them get out of bed. So a lot of you that are on that text list, you're gonna get a ding in a second. Text the word morning to 87948 if you want to be on that list. Text morning to 87948. Okay. All right. So a lot of you are saying yes because you believe me, and some of you maybe are saying no, and I understand that. I completely respect that, and I hear you. So let me tell you why you've been an investor your whole entire life. Give me a yes if you got out of bed this morning and you're sitting here watching me talk right now. This is a dumb question. I ask dumb questions so I can get to deeper conclusions. Simple questions, simple answers. Because here's the thing. This is what I figured out after going to school till I was 31, remember this. When I finished my PhD at 31, I'm probably about three times smarter than I was when I finished my PhD. And at that time, I was the only African American on the planet to have a PhD in finance. I literally sat next to the smartest students in the world from Russia. One girl in my class had the eighth highest math score in all of China. So these are the types of smart people I was around. But I'm three times smarter than I was when I got my. And I'm not bragging. I'm just giving you the facts. You can look all this up. This is real. Okay. So if you got up this morning, you're sitting there listening to me. Let me ask you another question. Are there other things you could be doing with your time right now? Are there other things that you could be doing? Like, could you be sleeping? Could you be, at the movies? Could you be, having sex? Which I'm sure is so much more fun than listening to me. I know I'm a hell of a sexy hunk of a man. I know that my voice just gets y'all going, but but I imagine that having sex or eating a cheeseburger maybe or whatever could be so much more fun than going listening to me, even though I think listening to me is cool, but still okay. So think about this. You made a choice. And what have I told you all? Those of you who've been rocking with us for a while, who've been coming to class every morning, what have I always said is the most valuable? And this is mathematically speaking. I taught math at the University of Kentucky, so I'm talking about in terms of equations. I've seen wealth equations, like these equations tell you how much money will someone have Wait, what's the most powerful variable in that equation? What have I told you all 1,000 times? The leading variable in terms of how much wealth somebody has when we do math. That's what we do. That's all we did when we were writing these research papers is we would do these equations to calculate wealth and stuff like that. What was the number one variable? It was this thing called time. It was not how much money you were born with. It was not whether you're white or you're black. It was not what kind of grades you made in school. It was not how much money you make at your job, right? It was none of those things. It was time. It was time. And so one of the things that I want you to understand is that the most valuable asset that you have, one of the most valuable assets is your time. So when you choose, so here's the thing I want you to understand. Now, some people aren't going to understand this, and it's okay. Like, if it takes me too long to get to the point, this is not for you. You should go do something else with your time, right? That's okay. I respect that. In fact, being here is a privilege. It's not a right. So, if anybody, if anybody thinks that I take too long to get to the point, or I'm not, I don't fit your short attention span, that's okay. But I want you to understand that time is one of the most valuable assets that you have. And one of the things I can tell you with complete certainty is that one difference between people that accumulate wealth and those who don't is is what do you do with your time? Where do you invest your time? There's that word invest. So you've been investing your entire life. Every single day, God makes a deposit in your bank account. He makes a deposit of 80, I want to say it's about 87,600 seconds into your bank account because it's not guaranteed. It may not be there tomorrow. You may not wake up tomorrow. And we all get the same deposit. We all get 24 hours deposited. So if you think of every hour as $1 million, you get a deposit every morning of $24 million into your account. And some people invest that wealth or they invest your income in things that are going to better themselves and benefit them and help them grow, help them learn. And then some people just waste it. They just waste time. They just sit around, don't do anything. And I can tell you that that one of the quickest things I learned as a young man when I was trying to figure out what it means to be successful is I said, "Oh, I get it. I don't think I need to be wasting time. I'm 21 years old. One day I'm going to be 31, then 41, then 51. That tends to be the pattern. So I better not waste my time." So that's one area, and I hope that give me a yes if you follow this, that you've been an investor your whole entire life. The problem is that most people don't invest at all. They invest very poorly because to be a good investor, you have to have some sort of a vision. You have to have some sort of an objective. You have to have some sort of optimization process, some sort of accumulation process that you're seeking to acquire. You have to have something that says, okay, I'm investing an hour a day into whatever so that once I accumulate all these hours, eventually I'm going to achieve some sort of goal, right? Whether you're an Olympic athlete, a wealth builder, or whatever, or a parent, even a parent. A parent invests, 8,760 hours a year into raising a child, and then the child turns 18, 19, 20, and then they say, that's my child. I raised that child. I've achieved the goal. So what I want you to just understand is that you're always investing. You're always investing in every single financial theory I could teach you, and I know quite a few. Uh, every single thing that I teach you in finance parallels to your life. You understand these things already. You understand what risk looks like. Give me a guess if you know what it means for something to be a risky situation, right? Walking through South Central in 1988. That's a risky situation, right? 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 We all know what a risky situation looks like. Give me a yes if you understand what it means to have options. We do stock options training regularly here in the Black Business School too. How many of y'all know what it means to have options? How many of you know what it means not to put all your eggs in one basket? Give me a yes or no. That's called diversification. These are all fundamental concepts that appear in finance, and people claim they don't understand it. I'm like, no, you understand all of it. It's all inside of you. God put all that in you. God gave you your education before you were born. You just have to ignite it. You have to turn it on. You have to turn on the light switch and say, "Oh, I get it now." And that's why, if you noted, in case you haven't noticed, one thing I picked up when I started teaching at Syracuse years ago is I like to use analogies to make my point. Some people have jokingly referred, they've been like, you're the analogy king. You always have an analogy. And that was a deliberate strategy. That was something where, because I started seeing parallels. eventually you get this vision. Like you sit there, go sit down and stare at financial books all day long for 10 straight years, and then see what you start seeing stuff. I literally started, I'm like, oh, I see the connection. Oh, this is connected to that. There's a, it really, so ultimately, these analogies come from the fact that I'm like, oh, that's just like, I'll see something, some complex financial concept, and I'll be like, oh, that's just like, oh, that's like sex. Or that's just like when somebody breaks up with you and they hurt your feelings, and then you're scared to date somebody else. Or that's just like when you decide to marry somebody and you have a baby with them, and then they divorce you later on. Or that's what it's, oh, that I get that. That's like when you have a birthday party and then you think your mom's gonna bring the cake and she doesn't bring the cake, right? Like literally that's what I end up seeing. So the point I want to make on this is that, number one, you've been an investor your whole life. If anybody who's ever been, I don't know, in a relationship before, if you've ever dated someone before, which I assume is everybody, that's an investment. You're investing in that person. You don't believe it's an investment? Go listen to Risa Tisa, who did that whole 45 volume manifesto called "Who the F Did I Marry?" She might as well call it "Who the F Did I Invest in?" And then if you go through, you can literally parallel every single part of that story back to financial theory. You can say, oh, I get it. You made an investment without doing due diligence. And he took advantage of your lack of consciousness in order to exploit you in a multitude of ways. And now you're actually able to benefit financially, though, because you did sort of, even though you did have a loss in that investment, you've been able to actually capitalize some of that loss. Instead of turning it into an expense, it's now actually capital, because now you're famous, and now she signed with a Hollywood agency. I don't know if y'all know that she signed with a Hollywood agency, and now they're paying her like all this money. I don't know if they're gonna make a movie out of it or something. But you always know that people don't win Hollywood when they used to be on YouTube with their hair all over the place, and then suddenly they got perms and nice outfits. But I'm happy for her. I love it. I think it's great. I'm sure she's gonna find her a real nice man out of this, and I really hope that she does, because she deserves it. But still, though, what she's basically saying when she says, "Who the f did I marry?" It might as well be called, "Why did I make a bad investment? I made a bad investment in a person, and I feel a loss." But the thing about her loss is that it wasn't a financial loss. It partly was, but it wasn't just a financial loss. She lost so many things that were so much more valuable than money, right? She lost her peace. She lost her trust. She lost maybe a year or two of her life, right? That she invested in this person. And remember, I told you that money is valuable, but time is more valuable than that. So when you end a relationship and your heart's broken and you're saying, "Gosh, I wish I could go back 5 years and do that over again," you're sad because you lost time. You made an investment and the investment did not work out. So anyway, what I'm gonna do is I promise you all I'd show you that video, and I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I'm super proud of this brother because he appears to be someone who has reached the singularity. And if you don't know the lingo here in the Black Business School, the singularity is when you get to the point where you make as much money in your investments as you do on your job. And also, it's the point. Also, graduation means that you now are an owner of assets, right? So everybody needs to graduate, and I want all of you to try to reach the singularity at some point, or at least for your kids, for sure. So listen to this brother's story. It's very, very short, and I was super proud of it. So I'm going to share this, and I'm going to keep sharing your story. So if Chanel comes in the chat one morning, I'm going to have her come in, and if you have a great story to tell, maybe your family bought your first house because of what we're doing in the Black Business School. You quit your job because of the Black Business School, or you are making more money because of the Black Business School. It helps us if you share your story, because we can share it with others. But then also, it's great. It's inspiring for other people to see. All right, so here is the video. Let me play this right now. I'm gonna see if I can turn this up. Hopefully, I won't get this wrong. This is also on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance. So here you go.
Using the prime option. We're selling options for the last 3 months now with Dr. Boyce's prime program, and I've made successfully money every week. I've been making between 400 and 700, well, 600, so 700 a week for the last 3 months. And I'm very happy with it. And if you're not getting into his program, that's probably the stupidest thing you could do. I didn't think it was all that in the beginning, but now that I've successfully been making money doing it, I was laid off from my job, and now I'm not even worried about going back to work. Uh, I'm making enough money to pay my bills, so a lot of stress has been taken off of me, and it has changed my life. I've been using.
All right, so I'm gonna pull this down. Hopefully you could hear that. Did everybody hear that? Give me a quick yes if you could hear that video because I want to make sure the audio is going through okay. All right, so here's what I was listening for in this brother's testimonial. First of all, I don't even know if he's in the class. He could be here right now. If so, I apologize. I hope I didn't embarrass you. But I was inspired by the story because, from where I sit, you need little things to keep you going because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you hear people that doubt it or people that just like I can tell you, or if I'm online and somebody trolls, I literally delete the trolls because it's just like I don't even want to hear the negativity. I don't want to hear the Negro naysayers who have a problem with every solution or somehow their view of black people or our potential is so tainted that they just come in with all this chaos. So where I stand, sometimes you just see so much stuff and you're like, oh, is this working? Is this worth even trying to do? So when I hear your stories, it really inspires me. It really keeps me going. And so that's the first thing. I was really excited for him. Second of all, if you listen to his words, he talked about things that had nothing to do with money. He talked about a lot of the stress that a lot of people experience. And the reason we created the first ever Black financial therapy department ever is because I said, we need therapists in here. We need people that can understand the mind, that can help us to understand the pain that we go through, the trauma, things like financial trauma, financial infidelity, and all these other things that happen, or just microaggressions and racial abuse that occurs when we go on our jobs, and just that sadness, that depression and anxiety that comes from feeling trapped and not having enough options. And so anyway, let's see. Patrick, is Patrick here? I can't. Patrick, say something if you're here. Gwendolyn says thanks for the testimonial, Patrick. So I don't know if Patrick's even here in class or not, but either way, though, he what Patrick referred to in that video is he talked about he used that word stress. He used and this was interesting to me because that's what I noticed. I said, okay, when most people are stressed, 9 times out of 10, it has to do with money. It's because their finances are not where they want to be, or they're either in a bad spot or you're worried about being in a bad spot. Right. So you either don't have what you need or you are at risk of losing what you have, which is also scary. Right. So it's like sort of a double layered thing. It's like, one, I don't have enough cash flow. Then number two, I don't have enough financial security. So remember, I mentioned to you all that there are two elements of what it means to be financially stable: cash flow and financial security. This is the way you measure companies in terms of whether or not a company is a worthy investment or if they're going to do well long term. Is you look at two things. Okay, what are their assets over their liabilities? Do they have too much debt? Do they have enough assets and enough equity? Or and then also you say, well, what does their cash flow look like? Let's calculate their earnings before interest and taxes and see what their free cash flow looks like. Companies that have strong free cash flow, that have a strong asset base, those tend to be companies that are financially stable. So when you are feeling economic anxiety, it's either because, and I told my friend, I said, when I picture somebody that's in under financial stress, I picture a person who is drowning in a prison cell. Like, imagine somebody who's in jail, so they're trapped, they're incarcerated, and the water levels up to here. I thought about that because I saw this story about a prison in back in what was it? It was in New Orleans during Katrina. And in Katrina, everybody was trying to get out of town, and people forgot about these poor guys that were locked up in this prison. So the water's coming in to this prison. All the guards have like run away. All the guards are like, look, good luck, fend for yourself. And these poor inmates were locked in this prison with the water coming up. They couldn't get out. And so ultimately, now I think they did get out, and they surprisingly they haven't been found since. Most of them, they don't know where they went. Good for them. I hope they ain't hurt nobody. But anyway, it's that's sort of what I see, because the drowning is when your expenses are higher than your income. And this is what a lot of Americans are feeling. They're in the water and they're trying to keep from drowning because the income's here, the expenses are here, and it's like neck and neck. It's like a basketball game that's got a 2 point where you got a 2 point lead in the game and you're trying to hold on to the lead. And then number two, they feel trapped and incarcerated because they don't have financial security. You don't have the freedom to make the moves that you want to make in order to improve your situation. And the incarceration may come from either not having enough assets, right? Nobody left you a capital base. Remember, I told you all that's more important than a college degree. A college degree ain't got nothing on the capital base. If you have a good capital base, you don't need a college degree. You just need to know how to not blow all your money. That's it, right? So nobody left you a capital base. You don't have enough equity and ownership to control your financial situation. So you feel trapped. You say, "Gosh, I hate this job. I don't want to go to work today." But you have to go to work because capitalism does a very good job of enslaving people. Capitalism is the ultimate slave master when it is allowed to operate in an unfettered fashion. So again, look around. I mentioned four things that really signify to you where a lot of Americans are. Number one, student loan debts at an all-time high. Car loan debts at an all-time high, which is very bad debt. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. And then also there's a retirement crisis that's already begun where 1/3 of all Americans between 65 and 70 have to go to work every day. They thought they'd retire, but when they took away those pensions, any expert would have told you that, oh, this is going to be bad. When they took away the pensions 20, 30 years ago, everyone said, oh, yeah, in about 20 or 30 years, all these baby boomers are going to have a really hard time retiring. And that's exactly what you're getting now. And it's only going to continue to get worse because the generation behind them are doing worse than them. Remember, the boomers are the ones who have all the stuff, they have all the wealth, they have all the assets, and they're struggling. Imagine what the millennials are going to go through. And then the generation after the millennials, I lose track after millennials. Is it Gen Z or Gen Y? I don't know. Anyway, whatever the generation is behind the millennials, they're going to struggle too, right? And so this is the world you live in. So when he said stress, these are the things that go through my mind when I'm like, yeah, this is good. So we didn't just figure out a way to help you make more money. That's good, but making more money, it's the best part of it is that it relieves stress, right? It gets rid of um the unhealthy experience that comes with being black in America or just struggling in America. It's not even just about race anymore. Race is important though, but it's not just race. Okay. So anyway, so thank you, Patrick, for sharing your story. It really inspired me. It really got me going. I said, yeah, this is exactly what I'd like to hear. And I've heard a lot of your other stories. We just never really documented many of them. We started working with a lady, and she said, "Yeah, I quit my job because of you." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool," right? So that's the goal that we're seeking to acquire. We want to help you get to the point where you feel comfortable making a pivot in your life that's going to put you in a better situation and put your family in a better situation. So we're not just thinking about right now and where you are right now. We're also talking about where you're going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, and then also we're talking about where your kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, or any kids that you mentor are going to be. So we're actually looking 50 years into the future. That's the vision that we have, and that's where we're trying to go with this. Now, some of you were asking where you can do more stuff related to what Patrick was referring to. It looks like Patrick is in the Prime program where we trade and we sell stock options, and we do it in a very conservative fashion. That's my style. I like things where you can minimize the risk and just get your income. So if you're interested in taking a look, you can either go directly and you can join directly at drboyceprime.com, or you can actually take a look at a training I did called How to Make Money Without Working. If you text the word money to 87948, I'll send that to you. Just text money to 87948 if you haven't done that yet. Or if you have done that and you want to get it again, you can go to boycewatkins.com. So we've got plenty of resources for you. All right. So one of the things that I want to mention here, I'm going to share my slide really quick on and this is from the book The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. In case you don't know, that's the book we've been going through. We're going through it very slowly because sometimes we just kind of jump around to, different topics. And I want to actually pull up this slide regarding the what I call the curse of the solopreneur. Actually, I'm going to go back to the previous one in a second, but I want to start here. And basically, what we find when it comes to Black-owned businesses is that there are a lot of Black-owned businesses that are run by one person. And unfortunately, that's not enough to scale effectively. That to me is a result of the fact that you're trained early, in my opinion, to work extremely hard. And that's a good thing. But the problem is that you eventually hit a bottleneck where your business can't grow beyond a certain point because you're doing everything yourself. So you end up, instead of actually building a business that is capable of employing other people, you end up pretty much working yourself out of a job. You just pretty much own or you own your job, right? You bought your freedom away from your other job, and now you have a new job, and you actually own the job instead of having someone just rent you for the job. So it's a benefit to you, and I think that's wonderful. But this also speaks to the need for other skills so that you can then be able to scale and create jobs for others and take some of the pressure off yourself. And so the studies show that over 95% of all Black-owned businesses have no employees. So most Black-owned businesses pretty much have just one person doing all the work. So that means the one person is the secretary, is in and the CEO and the marketing director and the chief financial officer, right? And then also the solopreneur has pretty much bought themselves out of a job. I mentioned that earlier, but eventually you work yourself into the ground. And what happens to a lot of solopreneurs is that number one, their businesses die because they don't have necessarily a really good legacy plan where someone else has been trained to take over the business or someone even wants the business. And so when I went through Baltimore to give a speech once, I remember they took me through this old mall that was kind of a there was kind of a almost like a graveyard for Black-owned businesses, and this guy pointed to this mall that looked like a place where drug addicts would hang out, and he said, "Yeah, this used to be full of Black-owned businesses that were making lots of money in the 1950s and 60s." And I said, "Really? What happened?" He said, "Well, their kids didn't want the businesses. The businesses died because the kids all wanted to go and get jobs and go to college and get a corporate job. So a lot of Black-owned businesses die because you have one person that's toiling away, and then there's not a clear legacy plan in terms of how to transfer that asset onto somebody else. Now, let me pull the slide back up. Now, someone's asking, what's the name of my book again? It's called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can get a copy at drboycebooks.com. That's drboycebooks.com. We also have flashcards for kids, workbooks. We have all kinds of other resources there. Even my wife's books are there. My wife is a financial therapist and also a relationship therapist. So feel free to go take a look at that. All right, so eventually you work yourself into the ground, and in fact, one of the reasons that I created that program, How to Make Money Without Working, is because I got tired of working myself. I said, "Gosh, you know what? I realized over time that the best way to survive in this economy is to find all the different ways to generate income that don't involve you actually having uh, to get up and use your body." And this is something that um, I think this is something that a lot of us should really process in the sense that that's one of the secrets to wealth. The more ways you know how to make money, the better off you tend to be. If you only know one way to make money, which is to go get a job, then you're going to struggle if there are no jobs. It's like if I only know how to eat apples and I only know how to get apples if someone brings them to me, then that means that if there are no apples, then I will starve to death. And then someone will say, "Well, why did you starve to death?" And I'll say, "Well, it's because there was no food." And then someone who wants to really make me mad might say, "No, it wasn't that there wasn't any food. It was that there weren't enough apples." And then if I say, "Well, okay, yeah, there might have been other food, but I didn't have access to that other food," then they might say, "Well, it wasn't that you didn't have access to the other food, it was that you didn't know how to go get the other food." Because there's a grocery store down the block and they don't sell apples, but they sell 3,000 other types of food, and you could have walked down the block to the grocery store and got something else to eat. Do you follow what I'm saying? Let me know if you get this analogy. So when you talk about economics, imagine somebody who goes through life and only knows how to eat apples. And they only know how to eat apples if someone gives them to them. So there's two constraints. I only eat apples, and I can only eat apples if somebody hands it to me. Do you follow me? So that's two big constraints. In mathematics, one thing that we teach in optimization, in mathematical optimization, is that the more constraints you put on yourself, the harder it is to optimize. The less likely you are to get to the optimal solution if you put constraints on yourself. It's like if I'm a person that has shackles on my feet, I can't run as fast as somebody who doesn't have shackles on their feet. Do you follow what I'm saying? So a lot of times, the way you're educated, the way you are indoctrinated, your cultural background, the environment that you're raised in, those become constraints. That shapes your thinking. It's like you're built inside this little box, and nobody has a box built for them more readily than Black people. Nobody has their brains and their thinking and their mind and their culture controlled more than Black people. You don't just have your education controlled by others. You have your culture controlled. BET. Did anybody ever see the BET Awards when they do their marketing and they say this is for the culture, this is the culture, this is the culture? So then a lot of people will copy that and they'll say, "Oh yeah, this is for the culture, this is for the culture." And I'm just and I end up making people upset because I say, "Well, what culture? Whose culture are you talking about? That ain't my culture. That baby mama, baby daddy, shoot them up, get high every chance you can get, be as ignorant as possible. That's not my culture. I don't know anything about that culture. That's not a culture I want." Right, and what it becomes, it's obviously appealing because they sweeten the deal. It's like they give you the poison, they put sugar in it, right? So they give lots of money, they throw money at it. And this is where money is, it can trick you. Money is the ultimate trickster if you're not careful. Money is a drug. Money is like the little devil that can come in there and make something look good. They can take a turd and literally put sugar on the turd and put chocolate icing on it and put it in a nice, beautiful Louis Vuitton box. And people will go and say, "I look at me, I've got this gold plated turd in a Louis Vuitton box." And they don't see it as a turd anymore. They see it as some sort of luxury item. And that's what I see when I see people from Paramount and BET telling me this is the culture. This is your culture. That's not my culture. That's a turd in a Louis Vuitton box. That's what that is. And it looks fancy. Why does it look fancy? It looks fancy because the people representing the culture show up in the king's clothing with in limos with lots of money in big houses, and we say, "Oh, I want to be like that. I want to copy that." That's a trick that's been used for thousands of years. I don't know if y'all know that. That's been used for thousands of years. They did that to the Native Americans when they wanted to kill Native American culture. What they would do is they would go recruit the children. They would go get the kids. They wouldn't recruit them. They just take them, and they would take them away to school, and they would put them in the king's clothing. They would say, "Stop wearing all that Native American crap. Put on, here's some white man clothes, and we're gonna have you dress like us. You need to speak like us. If we catch you speaking your native language, you're going to be punished. And then also we're going to educate you to be like us. We're going to pretty much indoctrinate you into our line of thinking. We're going to make you a brown version of us. You're going to honor us. You're going to look up to us. We're going to tell you how smart and how amazing we are, and how you're better off because we're in your life. We made your life better. And then we're going to take this person, and we're going to take them back to the village. We need them to be back around their own people, and we're going to give them lots of money. So we're going to give them some important position with lots of money, so that the other children that are coming up are going to look up to you and want to be like you. They're going to want to copy you. They're going to say, "Oh, what school can I go to so I can be like you?" And you say, "Well, like the king sent me to White Man University, and he made me special." And so then the kids will just naturally copy, and then at that point, I can take my hands off the process and say, "I ain't got nothing to do with it. This is just what those people are doing." Right. So you create these cycles, these systems. And that's what I see when I see other people trying to shape our culture. So let's go back to the original issue. The person who only knows how to eat apples, so they starve to death, either because there are no apples available or no one brings them an apple. Those are two variables, two constraints that keep them from optimizing their ability to get access to food. So what you would ideally do with that person is you would have to explain to them, look, it's not that you're starving. You are starving, but you're not starving for the reasons that you think. You think you're starving because there is no food, but really you're starving because you only eat apples. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, "No, you don't have to just eat apples. You can eat carrots, you can eat cheeseburgers, you can eat chicken, you can eat all kinds of stuff." And it's like, whoa, that opens up a whole universe of possibility. That right there, relieving that constraint right there goes a long way. So for example, if I know a person who says that the only way I can make money is with a job, well, one of the first things I do as a finance professor is I step up and I say, "No, actually, there's a million ways to make money. In fact, there are ways you can make more money than a job." Like, for example, we talk about things like I love to talk about stock options. I'm like, actually, you don't even have to work to actually make this money. You just need a capital base, and you build that up, and then this is how you do it, and right. And then you can also run a business. You can also invest in real estate. You can also do whatever, right? So that opens up a lot of possibilities. And then the second thing you do is you get past the second constraint. Remember, the person not only thought that they could only eat apples, but they also only believe they can eat apples if somebody gives them an apple. And then that's when you might come in and say, "No, no, actually, if you want to eat more apples, you can plant an apple tree in your backyard. You can actually have apples that come from your own garden." And then number two, you can go get apples. They got apples down at the grocery store, and there's a grocery store around the corner. You just got to walk down to the grocery, and we can get you some apples. But in addition to getting you apples, we can get you pears and bananas and cantaloupe. So there's a lot of things we can get for you. So now you're free. See, we talk about freedom all the time, but I stand on this point. Most people that talk about freedom don't know what freedom even looks like. They don't even know what freedom looks like. They don't even, like you say, what does it mean to be free? Well, I need a job. You're not free. You just make a little bit more money maybe, but you're not free if you have a job because your boss tells you what time to get up and when you can go to the bathroom. That ain't really freedom, right? So what does freedom look like? And these are the conversations I have with my kids when I'm talking to the kids. I'm like, okay, so what do you want out of life? Like, where do you? We go past like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, nah, don't define yourself by a job. Come on, you're more than just a job. Europeans actually think Americans are weird because first thing we do is we ask each other, so what do you do for a living? Right? As if your job is the most important thing you have going on in your life. And there's so many other things you're doing, so many other things you represent that are so much more important than how you make your money. Like, don't define me by how I make my money. Define me by what kind of human being I am. Define me by the things I love. Define me by the things I protect. Define me by my integrity. Define me by my journey through life and my experience and my perspective. And don't define me by like what job I have. I mean, come on, you're more than your job. Like, you work at FedEx. Is that all you are as a FedEx employee? No, that's not true. That's 100% untrue. But that is an artifact of capitalism that you have to be thoughtful about. Since capitalism does that, they're like, no, we want you droning for your job. And you'll literally have people. I saw something about somebody who was talking about how she had a hard time. She regretted the fact that she had invested her whole life in her career and she didn't, like the marriages and the kids and all that didn't work out because she put everything into her career and she kind of regretted that. And I understand that. I understand that because, it's kind of interesting. Like I'm like, who taught us that you're supposed to dedicate your whole life to a job? And then if you go back to the Rockefellers and people that had lots of money who were running these companies, that's kind of what I think they wanted. I think they wanted you to sit around and just focus on your job and serving these captains of industry and dedicating your life to it. So going back to that analogy, just to kind of finish that up, so you've now liberated this person. Now they not only know how that they can eat more than just apples, but they also know how to get their own apples. So that person, to some extent, is freer than they were before. They can optimize better. They can choose their meals more effectively. They can get access to food more readily. And not only do they have access to more food and different kinds of food, they also have the ability, pay attention now, listen, to feed others. They can feed others now. Because if I'm a person who can only eat apples and I only eat apples if someone delivers apples to me, I can't really feed nobody but myself half the time. Or if I can feed others, it only comes down to whether or not I get extra apples delivered to me. Right? If they're only bringing me one apple a day, I can't feed nobody off that. I can barely feed myself. And then I say, well, I'll get some apples for my family, but I need the man to bring me extra apples today. And if I get extra apples, I'll take care of everybody. But if he starts cutting off the apple supply, I'm in trouble. But if I know that I can eat more than apples, and then I also know how to go get my own, that's the holy grail. Do you follow me? Do you understand? Do you get, let me give me a yes if you get what I'm saying, right? Like if I know how to make money in a multitude of ways and I know how to go get it. I know how to give myself a raise. I know how to get extra income because I got a whole, because since I was raised as a kid, I had a family that loved me enough to give me this Swiss Army knife of possibilities economically of all these things I can do to make money that I can just literally manifest like how much money I want to make. Like this is why I actually sometimes refer to this money in the morning as money manifestation. I'm teaching you how to not just be an economic survivor. I want you to be an economic god. I want that God inside of you to rise out and to say, I'm going to manifest what I want. And I'm not talking about no touchy feely, like, let's just go pray for the money. No, I'm talking about manifestation through skill, through vision, through hard work, through understanding of the terrain. A person who understands the terrain, who knows how to go get what they want and then can motivate themselves to go get it, literally has an ability to manifest that far exceeds everybody else. And there's no amount of freedom you can have that will be greater than the freedom you have when you are activating as a god, when you've activated the inner economic god in you. And this is important. This is a term that I kind of, I know it maybe sounds dramatic to say this, but process this. For most of our lives, The white man is kind of our economic guide. That's what he is. He's the guy that can manifest for us. We're like, oh, please, I need a job. I need more money. I need more possibility. I need more whatever. And then they say, oh, okay, yeah, here you go. And we say, oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the fact that you did this for me. And really, I don't want to I don't want anybody else to be the middleman. Right? I want to be able to go straight to the source. I want to be the connect. I want to be the plug. I don't want to have to go because if somebody else is the connect, if somebody else is the plug, then you're going to be beholden to the plug. If you are addicted, and the pay attention, here's the other thing that's interesting. Capitalism creates a vast amount of what I would call financial addiction. People become, and when I say addiction, what I'm referring to is a dependence level on something to the point where if that's taken away from you, you go through some degree of anxiety. Okay, this is why we do financial therapy and have the therapist because financial anxiety is quite high, particularly in our community, right? Because you either don't have what you need or you're worried about losing what you got, right? So think about how a drug addict reacts. Let's say you got a drug addict who uses a drug every day and they need the drug just to feel normal. Well, what happens when you take away his drugs? What happens when you take away a crackhead's crack or you take away an alcoholic's liquor? What do? They start getting where's my weed? Where's my stuff, man? You got my stuff? Wait, dude, who took the shit? Who took it? Yeah, right? They start freaking out. They start going crazy. They can't have a normal day, right? It's withdrawal, right? Like a heroin addict. When you take away a heroin addict's heroin, he starts freaking out, right? And what happens to you when you are dependent on the money from your job and you think that your job might go away, or they call you and say, "I'm sorry, but we're gonna have to lay you off." We freak out. It's terrible. It's scary, right? We can. Oh God, what am I going to do? Right, and that is interesting to me because what I see again, because I just see things in such a strange way, is I see that as almost like a relationship between a drug dealer and a drug addict, right? And if you look at the relationship between a drug dealer and a drug addict, the drug addict will never have more power than the drug dealer. Do you understand? Like there's no situation where the drug addict has more power than the drug dealer. And so when black folks say I want freedom and we want black power, I go to that other term power and I say, what does black power really look like for you? How are you even using the word power when the whole construct under which you are raised and trained to exist in this world is a powerless construct? There's nobody raised to be a drug addict who expects to have more power than the drug dealer. The only way a drug addict can take power away from the drug dealer is to do what? You need to get off the damn drug. You need to free it. If you want freedom and you want power and you want to take your power back, you're going to have to confront your addiction. That's what you're going to have to do. So you got two choices. If you are a drug addict and you want to have more power than the drug dealer, two choices. Two choices. And this is completely true with money. Every analogy applies when it comes to money because actually Professor Andrew Lowe at MIT did a study and found that money is a drug. Money affects your brain in the same region as cocaine. Did y'all know that? That literally money is a drug on the brain. If you don't believe me, look at how somebody might act if you told them that they won the lottery, or look at how somebody acts if you take their money away. Withdrawal or exhilaration, right? That's what drugs do. You either feel like you're at the top of the world if you got your stuff, or you feel like you're at the bottom of the world if you can't get it, right? So the analogy applies. This is not just me being dramatic. It's just me illustrating it to help you understand it. So you got two choices if you want to liberate yourself from the power of the drug addict. One, you either have to find some way to get access to the drugs without going to the drug addict, right? So having all the drugs you need or having plenty of money to go buy all the dope you want, that's one solution. That's a hard solution, but it would apply, right? Or two, I have to free myself from the need of the drug, right? I have to clean myself up. And so when people talk about what it means to be financially free, a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that being financially free means you have to be extremely wealthy, that you have to have millions of dollars in the bank. And that's not true. Being financially free does not mean that you have $1 billion or that you become a Rockefeller. Financial freedom means that you are able to make decisions in your life where those decisions are not being shaped by the economic outcomes of those choices. It means you can literally live your life in a way that is independent of what's going on financially. And so there are lots of people that don't make a lot of money who are very financially free if they're financially secure. My grandmother, Felicia, rest her soul. That is the she is in our black business school, the Panther. We named our Panther Felicia. That's how I keep my grandmother with me everywhere I go. My grandmother Felicia was incredibly financially free, and I'm gonna put her up on the wall, up on my background, because that Panther, the Panther's name is Felicia. My grandmother was quite financially free, and she never ever made more than $22,000 a year. She was a single mother, never made more than $22,000 a year, but she was financially free. And the reason I know she was financially free is because she lived below her means. She never had to do anything desperate to get money. She wasn't trying to keep up with the Joneses. She paid off everything as soon as she could, paid off her car, paid off her house, had plenty of money saved in the bank, had perfect credit. A lot of y'all got grandmas like this. A lot of you do. How many of y'all got somebody in your family like that? Anybody got a grandma or a granddaddy who's just real serious about their money and real conservative and careful and doesn't put themselves in stupid situations? Anybody got that wisdom in your family? If you do, bless you, because though that's your finance professor. Those are the people that should be teaching you economics. If you really want to learn how to economically survive in this country, don't just go listen to the gurus and the Dave Ramseys or the professors at these expensive universities. Go look at your granddaddy and figure out, like, granddad, what do you do culturally? This is that word culture again. What do you do to how are you always so financially secure? And I bet you every nickel in my bank account that he's going to have some sort of theory, explanation, policy, strategy, or process that makes this happen. I guarantee you that this did not happen by accident. I guarantee you he's not going to say, well, I spent all my money on liquor, weed, and hoes, and I just happened to win the lotto because God blessed me with the lottery ticket. No, he ain't going to say, he's not going to have a story like that. He's going to have a philosophy. And he's gonna say, "Well, you don't loan money to stupid relatives, and you don't spend more than what you got." And just, like, literally, I called my grandma when I was on the faculty at Syracuse, and I had this whole doctorate, and I was writing research papers on finance and economics and all that. And I had to write an article for Essence magazine about money. And at that time, I was much younger. I was about 35, and I was trying to still relate these ideas, in a way that didn't sound so in the clouds. And so I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna call my grandma and just ask her if she can make me a list of rules, financial rules that she follows. And she sent me a list of like 10 things that she does to make sure her money's good. And it was like little simple stuff that she learned from her great grandma, or something from her, not her grandma, I'm sorry, from my great grandma, who was born in like 1905. And it was like little stuff like, you put out of every dollar, you give 10 cents to the Lord, and you put 10 cents in your savings account. Right? It was real simple stuff. But it worked. It absolutely positively worked. I saw people in my family go to my grandma. I saw people in my family that made 3 times more money than my grandmother go to her to have to borrow money because they literally did not understand one basic rule of money, which was don't spend more than what you make. That's it. That right there is class is over, class dismissed, right? And because most Americans don't really do that, right? We have this consumerism. We want to keep up with the Joneses, and we got to buy the latest and the nicest whatever. And you're scrolling through Instagram and you see people flexing all these worthless material possessions, and you get caught up in that, right? And I get that, but really, if you can break away from a lot of that, you're that's going to be a huge step in your financial freedom. And this is why the financial psychology is so important, and why we have a whole department on this in the Black Business School, is because I said it's a lot of this stuff is really mindset. It's how you think. It's your culture. It's just, what's important to you. What are your priorities? It's so if you shift your culture, your priorities, and then have actions that are in alignment with those renewed priorities, where you don't feel like you have to have the nicest car, you don't feel like you have to have the nicest clothes, you don't feel like you have to outspend everybody around you, or spend money just because everybody else is doing it. That goes a long way to protecting your finances. Okay, so anyway, one thing I wanted to mention to you all is my wife and I, we're doing something called the Love and Money Lab. And we do this every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you would like to join us for the Love and Money Lab, oh, I'm hitting the button. Something weird just happened here. If you'd like to join us, text the word love to 87948. Just text love to 87948 and we'll send you an invitation. It's and we're all about the whole love and money thing. My wife is a full professor of social work. She has a PhD in social work, but she's a licensed relationship therapist. She doesn't just give her opinion on things; she's studied that. She trains other therapists. That's how deep she is in the game. And so what we decided to do was to create the Love and Money Lab because we noticed that a lot of families break up because of money. And so we just decided, you know what, let's do something that we think can help people and help the culture, right, to create the kinds of institutions that are more likely to build wealth. And so the Love and Money Lab, if you'd like to join us on Tuesday, just text the word love to 87948. And then also pretty soon, I'm going to do an introduction to stock market investing, probably in the next week or so. I'll keep you guys posted. If you want to get a list of stocks that I like, I have some AI stocks, some stocks in Africa, stuff like that. I can send you that. Text the word stock, STOCK, to 87948. So 87948 is the number. If you can memorize it, write it down somewhere. And I'll give you different text words that'll help you get access to different resources in the Black Business School. So text stock to 87948. Okay. So one thing, so let's finish up this slide here, and then we can kind of let's see, we've been here for a minute, so we can go and finish up for today. So ultimately, the curse of the solopreneur is that you end up working yourself into the ground. A lot of, the reason I created that whole thing, how to make money without working, is partly because I was tired of working. And I was like, oh, what are the different ways to make money that doesn't require you to have to work all the time? Another way to make money while working less is to learn skills like delegation to other people, to get other people involved. That way you have extra help and you can be more productive instead of being a jack of all trades and the master of none. That's where a lot of Black entrepreneurs are. And that's why our businesses struggle to grow because we don't have a culture that builds businesses where tasks are delegated. So some solutions for the solopreneur that you probably want to consciously dig into. Remember, this is money consciousness. So I want you to consciously think about these things and consciously teach your kids these things, is delegation. Delegation is where you go from working. Here was my dilemma. When I started as an entrepreneur, I would work first I'd work 20 hours a week to my business, whatever amount of time I had outside of my job. Then 20 hours became 30 hours, then 30 became 40, then 40 became 50, 60, 70. But then you get to the point where you hit a bottleneck and you start getting what they call diminishing returns. That means that your quality of life starts to deteriorate because you are working yourself into the ground. You're just working your butt off, and it's so painful. And then you're not investing in the other things that matter in your life. Remember, your life is typically defined by health, wealth, and relationships. So you're over investing in health, and what suffers? Well, your health is going to suffer. Your mental and physical health suffers. So you end up in the hospital, and you end up losing all your money because big pharma comes and takes it all. The hospitals take it all. The doctors take it all. And then also your relationships suffer. If you look at a lot of people that have lots of money, they don't tend to have the best relationships. They cut off all their friends. Their partner, his wife is sleeping with the gardener. His kids don't talk to him. Whatever, right? So ultimately, what delegation does is it protects you from all that, and that's where you can pass things on to other people. And this requires that relationship component that we've talked about. When I use the word relationship and I started using it more in our financial training, people didn't always get it. People thought, they were like, what? Because why is Boyce talking about relationships? You're not a relationship person. And I'm like, no, relationships are everything. Anybody that makes money will tell you that relationships are everything. And if you are a boss and you're managing other people, you better have a good relationship with those people. If it's not, if you can't sit and talk to them and work things out and delegate and have clarity and communicate in a certain way, then you're not going to get anything done. And in fact, the founder of Domino's Pizza, they asked him, they said, so what was your secret to building Domino's Pizza? He said, I built a team, maintained a good relationship with my team, and I repeated myself over and over again for the next 10 years. That's what he said. I just made sure I over communicated and maintained that relationship. So he was talking about relationships. Like I maintained clarity. I became a leader, right? So here's my point. If we're going to do what needs to be done in our community, we have to breed young people that have these skills. This should be a freaking class. This should be a dang class. And at some point, and I hope, I hope you'll, if you like what we have going in the Black Business School, I hope you'll bring your kids because at some point I may say, hey, let's do a delegation class for children, a relationship management class for kids, conflict resolution for kids. And I'm hoping you'll consider joining or bringing your kids because I can tell you this will go a long way. And to be real, as a black person, it might actually save your son's life if he can actually de-escalate a conflict because we know our kids are literally dying from the inability to de-escalate conflicts. But putting that to the side, assuming he's not out in the streets like that, at the very least, it'll help him to get things done and be able to build projects. We need builders. Builders have to be people that can maintain enough stability to build. You have to have a foundation to build. And I point out real life lessons. I yesterday I mentioned Damon Dash at the risk of making Dame upset because Dame and I hung out with Dame quite a lot for a while, and then I just kind of got a little tired of it. Because his energy was so hard to work with, and I was like, gosh, I don't know if we can build anything because you're just so Damon Dash, you're just bombastic, and people don't understand that. People cheer for that. Like, well, as black people, if you notice, we cheer for instability. And I can tell you, I'm trying not to, because I know people and stuff. I don't want to make anybody hurt anybody's feelings, but like I sat with Kanye on the phone for hours, and I was like, now I kind of understand why it's hard to work with you because you think you're Jesus. And I don't want to work with Jesus. I want to work with a human being. Like I don't like I don't know what to do with this. I don't you're Jesus. It's okay, okay, you're okay, Jesus. I'll see you in heaven or in church. Like, I don't know what to do with that. So my point is to say that a person that has good conflict resolution skill, a person that has good relationship management ability, a person who knows how to delegate properly, isn't going to um, approach the building process with so much weird energy that sometimes we celebrate in the black community. I believe a lot of it comes from hip hop culture. I think not all hip hop culture is bad. I love hip hop, so don't think I'm anti rap. It's the only type of music I've ever liked in my life. But that energy that says, look at me, I'm important, I'm the most important person in the room, I'm the best, I'm the greatest, everyone else is beneath me, that's not how you build a team. If you go and you look at the CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, and I'm not here to put a white man on a pedestal, but he's an example. He just came to mind. Tim Cook does not constantly walk around telling his employees, I'm better than you and you ain't nothing. You're worthless. If it wasn't for me, you'd still be on the street corners. He doesn't do that. He's just this like humble looking, awkward looking little white guy that's like going around trying to get everybody on board to go sell computers. He knows how powerful he is. He knows he could fire anyone that he sees in his company at any moment, but he does not carry that energy with him. Do you understand? He does not make them feel bad for being a part of Apple. He wants them to feel good for being a part of Apple because he knows that without the team, there is no Apple. He can't run that company by himself. There's probably 500,000 people or more that are employed by Apple, and he's got to get all those people on the same page. Because if he can't, then the whole project falls apart. The whole company falls apart. At OpenAI, that's what happened. OpenAI had a situation. They were on top of the world. They were doing chat GPT and all that, literally cutting edge technology. They had a little rift, and hundreds of the employees signed a petition saying, if you don't make this change on the board, we're all out of here. This whole project dies. Your whole vision is dead because you need your engineers and you need your programmers and you need your people that can do artificial intelligence. And so if you don't give us a piece of what we want, we're gone. Starbucks had that issue too. Their baristas were all rebelling, right? So typically people that are able to build big projects understand fundamentals of relationship management and delegation, where you know the difference between being a leader and being a boss, right? We all talk about being a boss, 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 boss. When I was on the, when I did something on the Breakfast Club years ago, I remember Charlemagne called me after Dame Dash went on and was talking about being a boss, 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 boss. And I didn't have any problem with what Dame said, and I told that to Charlemagne. I said, look, I like the fact that he's challenging people, especially our men, to fight for what's ours. I believe you got to fight for it. I don't. Power is never going to be given to you. No one will ever give you power. You got to fight. You got to just being there like I'm gonna fight you for this, right? And so I get it. I like that part. But one thing I want to do is I want to pull up a slide real quick, and I want to talk about the difference between being a leader and a boss, and then we'll come back to delegation in a minute. Okay, and in case you want to know where I'm getting this from, this is a study guide from my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. you can get a copy at drboycebooks.com. So go to drboycebooks.com and it's all there. All right. So here is according to me, the difference between a leader and a boss. Okay. So a boss can be mean and cruel toward those who have less authority. A boss will constantly remind you that they're more important than you, that they're better than you, that they're the leader, they're the alpha, you're the beta, that they're the top dog and all that. And who wants to be around somebody who talks like that all the time? Again, that was my experience talking to Kanye. I'm like, dude, I'm not here to compete with you to see who the top dog is. Um, you're great at rap. I'm better at finance than you are. So who cares? Like, stop this. Let's stop the contest and let's collaborate, right? But collaborative energy is not always celebrated. It's always sort of this idea that one person always has to be the leader and the primary beneficiary of the relationship, and that's not how you build. Number two, the boss will demean you to make himself feel better about himself. So the only way I can feel good about me is if I tell you that I'm better than you. I can only be good if I'm better than you, which is an incredibly unproductive idea because I don't understand why we all can't be great. Like, I have no problem sitting here and telling you that I believe I can do anything. I have no problem telling you that I believe that if I work hard enough, I can accomplish anything on this earth, that I believe God gave me some gifts and that I ain't scared of nothing and that I could go out here and I can take on any battle and I feel confident saying that. But I only would say that to you to tell you that you can do that too, that we can do that together. And I also say that with full understanding that if I convince you to join me in this battle, I have a greater likelihood of ending the war or winning the war. Sorry, do you understand what I'm saying, right? If I say that to you, it should be to empower you, not to remind you that I'm better than you, because I'm not better than you. I might have a couple of years of wisdom or something or some skill that I can bring to the table, but I'm here to feed you. I'm not here to starve you and eat in front of you. I want all of us to eat good and I want all of us to feel good. I want all of us to believe that we can be great, right? So when I talk about being an economic god, do I believe I'm an economic god? In my life, I feel like I am, absolutely. But I want all of us to ignite the inner economic God that exists inside all of us because I believe this is something that's achievable for everyone. So ultimately, when you look at the leader versus the boss will constantly remind you that they're better than you, whereas the leader will make everyone feel better. All right, so let's keep going. Leaders understand that leadership is also service. They understand that being the leader, being the top dog or whatever you want to be, is not just a matter of feeding your ego. It's not something that you just simply brag about. It also means typically the biggest leader typically has to make the biggest sacrifice. That means that if you're the king of the village and the village gets attacked, you have to be the first one out there ready to fight to defend and protect the village. Or if they say, if they come in and they say, sacrifice one person in order to save this village, then you have to be the first person to say, okay, I'll sacrifice myself, right? Or if you are a father or a mother, as the leader of that household, your service, your sacrifice must be greater than pretty much everyone else that follows you. You have to set that example. And again, I personally believe that this is one of the things that is cursing our culture right now is that there's a lot of selfishness. There are a lot of people, even when you hear them talk about things like relationships and marriage, it's always about like what's in it for me, and I want this and I want that, and people aren't really talking about the service aspect. Or they'll say, why would I go take care of these kids? Why would I take care of you? Why would I do this for you and do that for you? And I don't quite get that because I believe that the more if you're in a reciprocal environment, if you're in a healthy environment, then your service will come back to you tenfold. Because if I'm pouring into you, you'll pour back to me. So the first thing I wake up thinking about every single day when I come talk to you is how can I serve you? How can I make your life better? This does not mean that I'm here to deplete myself and to give something without an ROI on the investment, but I invest heavily in you in the hopes that you'll come back and you'll invest in us, right? And then together we win, right? It becomes an ecosystem, right? And so ultimately, that selfishness, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't think it's healthy, and it does not tend to lead to positive results. It only turns people into islands. At no point in history has an island ever been able to go and achieve big things in the world, right? So you have to have some sort of an ecosystem. Also, leaders understand that your goal is to inspire your teammates to be better, and we talked about that before. So let's get back to The solutions for the solopreneur. Number one is delegation. Number two is technology. If you use technology, then you can actually scale your business. Most of the biggest businesses in the world are technology driven, and so you don't want to ignore technology when you're building. You want to at least get people around you who understand it, especially in the age of AI. Technology is more important than ever. The people that have the most wealth right now are the people that understand technology. Third, partnerships. Partner with other people. Partner in a way that is where you respect your boundaries, but at the same time, you're not leading with your ego. You're leading with service. You're leading with adding value. If you add value to other people, then they're going to want to partner with you. And so these are little things that can help you to overcome the curse of the solopreneur. These are also skills that I believe should be intentionally and deliberately delivered to children when they're young. I think that our children in our community, the B1 kids, the ones that are going to go conquer the world, the ones that are going to go make the billions, I believe that these children should be taught how to partner, how to delegate, how to form healthy relationships so that when they grow up to a certain age, they'll have 4 or 5 best friends and they'll all be on the same page and they'll all get together and say, we're about to go enter this economic battle with the world. How do we do this in a way where we help each other out? How do we do this in a way where we're more likely to survive? I'm going to close it all together in this basic idea. Think about it right. Think about life right now. How many of you, give me a yes in the chat, how many of you have just noticed just how most of the economic news about how people are doing is just bad news? How many of you have noticed that this is a consciousness exercise? And in case you, if you know how those operate, I ask simple questions. So you might be like, well, why is he asking me this? He knows I know this. Right, but give me, I need you to give me a yes because I want you to consciously respond to this. How many of you have noticed just how the news is bad when they tell you the average American can't afford to buy a house anymore because BlackRock is buying all the houses? The average American isn't getting a raise on their job. The average American is struggling with inflation because the cost of everything is going up, 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 up. Right? You just see all this negative economic news, and it happens every single day. It seems to be getting worse. Well, remember that one of the simple wealth hacks that we've discussed is that a lot of this negative news is built under one basic assumption that people are doing everything by themselves. And I believe, I'm not sure, maybe the conspiracy theorist in me jumps out when I wonder, I'm like, why are we encouraging everyone to be solo? Why are we encouraging everybody to be isolated? Why are we encouraging people to operate as individuals as opposed to forming basic team building skills so you can get things done? Because look, here's the deal. If your son or your daughter or you or anybody in your family that you love is raised under a framework, is raised with a culture that comes from Africa that is built on cooperative energy, cooperative economics. Let's work together. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If we re-embrace what our ancestors gave us in terms of that level of wisdom and just say, no, we don't do it like that. We understand we're a family, we're a unit, we're a group, we're a crew. If I don't have a crew, I'm gonna go find one. I'm gonna go find some people and add value to their lives and build trust by adding value to the point where we form a bond, we build our glue that connects us, and then we're able to go into this competitive economy as a unit. Gang affiliated. See, we think gangs are always bad. Gangs are not always bad. Gangs and herds and groups are formed for protection. Animals understand this. Most animals operate in gangs. Elephants, did y'all know that elephants form gangs as teenagers? They become and then they found that when elephants don't have male mentors around, like the older males, like if it's only the women and the children, when the adolescent elephants form gangs, they start killing the other animals on the reservation. And they this was a real thing. They didn't understand why these teenage elephants were forming gangs and killing the rhinos and all that. They're like, this isn't natural. This isn't but they realized the reason they were doing that was because they didn't have the older male bull elephants to calm them down and stop them from doing that. So when I saw that, I said, oh, that's the black community. That's why we got these crazy teenagers shooting each other up in Southside Chicago because you took away all the dads, right? So this is important stuff. So anyway, so forming groups is a very natural survival mechanism that even animals understand. Animals didn't go to college. They didn't take any classes in economics. They just know that in order to survive, I need to be part of a group. I'm more likely to survive if I do that. So if your kids grow up with that mindset, which is very natural, and they form those groups, then when they get older, they can form entities and even informal entities that allow them to get things done. So they say, I really want to buy a house. So if I get a partner, a life partner, who also has the same values as me, then we have double our income. So now we can afford a lot of things that we couldn't afford on our own. Or if I don't have a life partner, maybe I get together with three other people that I trust, that I've known since I was a kid, and we can now go buy real estate. We can go form a business. We can do all these other things that allow us to graduate. We're going to graduate together. Now, y'all remember, what does graduation mean in this space? Graduate does not mean going to school. Graduate means climbing the fence to the world of wealth builder, right? That means going from being a renter to being an owner of property. Graduating means going from being an employee to being a boss or an owner or a leader of something, right? Graduation means it means you become an owner of stock. So when you are working together, what happens is that you're able to graduate from the world of strugglenomics to the world of powernomics. You go from saying, how do we figure out how to make it through the day, to what are we going to do with all these excess resources that we have that are in abundance right now. We've got this oversupply of cash flow. We've got all these extra assets pouring in. How can we allocate those assets and play this game of black monopoly? How do we start playing black monopoly and start putting ourselves in a position to have true power in this economy, and then gain that ability to have enough economic vision and become enough of an economic god that we can actually create opportunities for others, because since we were little, our parents helped us remove the constraints. Do you understand? I want to connect all this to you. Remember earlier we were talking about removing the constraints, where you know all the different ways to achieve the goal, and you also have the freedom to go and execute these different visions or whatever. Then you go from having just enough to take care of yourself to the point where you can actually take care of other people. Well, part of the requirement for that is graduating. You have to graduate, reach the singularity, and then you have enough extra resources that you can then take care of not just yourself, you can take care of others too. And then that's when you have a powerful community. That's when you have a community that others are going to have to respect. That's because you say, look, we're not showing up begging you for nothing. We don't need nothing from you right now. We're not here begging you for jobs. We're not begging you for opportunities. We know how to create all of that. We're negotiating with you. That's what integration should have been. Integration should have been a negotiation. It shouldn't have been what it was. It shouldn't have been, I'm going to let you beat me upside the head until I bleed out of my skull at a lunch counter just so I can have the opportunity to give you my money. That's a rope-a-dope. That was a lie. That was a false narrative that was fed to us. That was built on that was white supremacy 101. Why in the world? There's not a white man on the planet. Give me a yes or no if you agree with this. There's not a white man on earth who would go and allow his head to get busted in just so he can have the privilege of giving all his money to black people. Can y'all give me a yes or no if you follow this? I'm going to stick on that point for a minute. Tell me yes or no. Would you agree with the statement that there's not a white man on earth? I dare you. I'll give anybody $1 million. You go find me. You go find me a couple of white people who will literally go and say, I'm going to risk getting murdered and get my head busted in with a billy club, and then my reward is that I get to give you all my money. What? How backward? How many examples like this do we have to see before we understand what's been done to you? How many? I mean, seriously, how many examples? What planet does that make any sense on other than America? It doesn't. It makes no sense at all. No sense at all. So this is why, and people don't like it. When I say I don't know how I feel about integration, I just bring up that example. They have no response. Like, oh, you're just being a blah blah blah. They don't have a response. They say something evil and mean, like, oh, you need to shut up and you need to stop. They can't, because there's no logic they can use to defeat that argument. So ultimately, what I would just say to you is, ultimately, you got to rethink all of this, and I believe the blueprint's out there. And if I can help you in that journey, I would be happy to do that. I'm going to go ahead and stop for today. We're going to do this again tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you'd like to get a notification when we go live in the morning to do money in the morning, money meditation, text the word morning to 87948. Text morning to 87948. Also, later on today, if you want to see the archives, we've done about probably 40, 50 lectures now for money in the morning. All these are available to you and your family for life. I can send you a link where you can actually go, and if there's a fee attached, but it's well worth it. It's better than anything you'll ever get in college. I can confidently say that. And I'll text you all the link later on today. So just text the word morning to 87948, and I'll send you all the link, and we'll discount the price to make it fair for you, make it easy for you. And so if you want to get access to all those things in the back, and you can go through them, share them with your kids, your family, etc. I am so confident in this and confident in what I know and what I'm sharing with you that I guarantee you that if your kids go through even 10% of this, their wealth level is going to be twice as high as the average white person in America if they implement even a fraction of this. So this is the win. This is the play. This is the opportunity. This is the possibility. But we got to do it. We have to take action. We cannot just talk about it. We got to be about it. All right. So have a good day, everybody. Bless you. Um, I'll hit you guys up again this weekend, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. And if you want to get a copy of the book or a copy of the study guide or all the slides and all that stuff, just go to drboycebooks.com, drboycebooks.com, and that's where everything's located. So have a good day, everybody.